There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Konnichiwa. Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. I'm out in the park. I'm in shirt sleeves. It's about 22 degrees on a Saturday afternoon, and I've taken you to the post office. And now I've just sat and read 10 pages in the park. It's a little noisy. You saw the kids swinging on that big round thing. I've never seen one of those before, but what do I know about kids and playgrounds? What a beautiful day. So this is just a quick little check-in, a little Friday vlog. I don't think I'm going to do a Saturday vlog as well. I won't rule it out completely, but I think I'll just do one on Friday and leave it at that. And so let me catch you up a bit. So you saw that I mailed boxes, I think 71, 72, and 73 at the post office. So I'm going to take the weekend off. I took you to a Saturday post office once. I'm not going to kill myself to get more boxes in the mail. I'm on track. I have about 70 more boxes to mail before May 28th. Definitely have enough time and money to do that, so we're good. I've had really good luck selling books. So I sold my large collection of unused, unconsulted, very rarely opened Japanese language study books. I had 30 or 40, I don't know how many I had, but I had a whole collection and they sold within 20 minutes. She said, how much do you want for all of them? This is on Facebook Marketplace. Facebook is shit, but boy, their marketplace is really busy here in Tokyo. I have not sold anything on Craigslist. It's been so terrible. I've actually stopped listing stuff there because I wasn't getting a bite. Whereas Facebook Marketplace, really quite good. I said 60 bucks, 6,000 yen, 60 bucks. And she said, how about 5,000 yen? I said, maybe, but I'm not going to settle for that now. If you'd like to wait a week and we'll see if I get a better offer. But, you know, meanwhile, people would probably be buying single books or a set of 5 books out of the 60. She said, okay, $60 is okay. So I sold those. And then I'm keeping some of my ESL, English second language teaching books, but I offloaded half of them that I have never, used, or maybe even 3/4 of them. I put them up in one big batch, and 6 of the books sold to buyers that just wanted 3 each. But then a guy asked how much I wanted for everything else. And I said $150, 15,000 yen, and he said no problem. And I got that box sent off today. It was too heavy for me to carry, so I had the post office pick it up. But he's an English teacher in Kobe, but he's going to send them to, I don't know if it's a school that he's affiliated with, but an ESL school on the island of Cebu in the Philippines. And if you know anything about international ESL stuff, Cebu is the center of English language study in Asia, and it's the cheapest place that a student can go for an immersive environment and study English, and it's like $10 a lesson. I don't know how the cost of living must be low. I don't know how it all works, but the students can go and study there for really cheap. So I don't know if this guy's starting up a school. It doesn't matter. But he bought the whole thing, and he's going to get them to the Philippines, and I have $150 in my pocket. So I might as well tell you. No, I'll save that story until I get them. I made a rash shopping decision, and I'll save that for probably next week. I'm going to wait until the stuff arrives in the mail, and I'll show it off. But it's not books, so I'll keep you in suspense. But most of the money that I'm making by selling stuff, I'm using to finance the postage to get my books that I want to keep to Canada. I poked my eye again with my scissors. Remember that I did that about a year ago, and did it again, so it's not looking as bad as it was earlier this week. I'm such a fuck up. Haven't done very much reading at all. I think yesterday morning I got a good amount of reading in, and just now I read 10 pages of a book that I believe I've been reading ever since January. Butter Honey Pig Bread by Francesca Ekwuyasi. And I love this book. This could end up being a top read of the year, but I'm just really deeply connected with it. But I'm only reading it. I'm reading it at a snail's pace, and that is just such a lovely way to read this particular book. The story is continuing, even when I haven't picked it up. Like, I'm still living in the characters and living the story in my mind. It's that kind of a read. I've had the book on my shelf for a couple of years, I think. And it was Bill in Nairobi that really got me interested in it. We did a bite-sized chat about it. It was his first bite-sized chat, and I'm responding to it on that deeper level that he talked about, which is really nice to share my impressions of it with Bill as I'm reading it. So that's fantastic. All right, well, the kids are getting noisier and noisier. You can hear them behind me. So I'm just going to wrap up. Kenji and I had a Zoom call with our immigration lawyer, first time. I'm sure we're going to hire him. And he gave us a whole bunch of different options for how Kenji can get into the country, and work visa or spousal permanent resident, all kinds of options. So that was very informative, and now we have a much better idea of what our options are. So that was great. That happened today. And then right after that, I had a bite-sized book chat with Kim of Native Lady Book Warrior, which was one of the highlights of the week. So I also did a separate little chat with her that I'm going to filter in the rest of this vlog. So first you're going to see the start of that chat, where I think the first part is Kim and I are talking about moving libraries, moving books. And then on the way home right now, I've given you many... Oh, God. Shut up. I know it's a kid's park, but I've taken to many supermarkets in Japan, and I know many of you love that. I don't think I've ever taken you inside a convenience store, have I? So I'm going to stop at a 7-Eleven, which is very close to my house, and it's just right next to here, to give you a little tour of a Japanese 7-Eleven. It's very different from an American... It's very different. It's very different from an American or a Canadian 7-Eleven. So let's have a look at that after you see the first part of me and Kim, and then we'll see what else gets on this vlog. So this is Kim. Okay. Everybody knows Kim. Kim from Native Lady Book Warrior. Hello, Kim.
Hello.
We did a bite-sized book chat, which you'll be seeing later on, but I also am roping her in to make an appearance on my weekend vlog. So welcome. And one thing I'd love to talk to you about is moving libraries, because I'm moving my library across the world. Do you have any moving stories?
I actually still have so we recently moved from Hopi Nation to here, and I gotta say it was a freaking nightmare because there's no moving vans, there's no moving. We just had to throw everything in the back of my father-in-law's truck and just go back and forth. And it's not a paved road. It's this shitty dirt road. And even though it's only maybe 30 miles, there were some times where we couldn't travel to move because it's clay. We would get stuck, or it's just, typical res life. So I was like, what the hell, man? How come it's taking so long to move? So we still haven't even moved all out. We still have stuff at my mom's garage. Even a whole refrigerator that we haven't brought over. And I still have boxes of books over there. and I'm kind of stressing out because like it of course Hopi is like really raw, and the last thing I want is like mice like chewing into those boxes and chewing the crap out of my books. And I left books that I've already read, but I didn't want to get rid of, that are like treasures that I'm pretty sure that I would reread. And now I'm just so stressed out. Like, I wonder if they're doing okay. Poor thing, my books.
Well, as you know, I am moving from Tokyo back to Saskatchewan, Canada, and it's not a nightmare because I mean it's a fun thing to do, packaging up my library, but I've had to make some difficult choices because, as crazy as it sounds, Japanese customs will not allow me to move all of my books to Canada.
I know. I saw your video.
Yeah, I won't repeat all the details because I've talked about it, but yes. So I've been giving books away and selling books and this, and I've reduced my library maybe by a third, something like that. And then I'm also mailing boxes of books to my parents in Saskatchewan to keep for, well, in fact, they're going by slow boat, by sea mail. I've sent you books the same way. Takes a long time. So I will probably arrive in Saskatchewan myself before very many of these boxes do. But so far, I have sent 73 boxes in the mail.
Really?
Small boxes,
wow.
2 kilo maximum weight for the cheap rate is 2 kilos. So 73 of those small boxes.
Okay.
So I'm getting a little bit of weight training, a little bit of exercise, going to the post office twice a day.
You're like, go back and forth.
Did you hear that little bell sound in the background?
Yeah.
Do you know what that is? Have you heard me talk about that on my channel?
No, what is it?
That's my rice cooker, my Japanese rice cooker. It means that my rice is cooked.
Yeah.
My lunch today is grilled salmon with rice. It's Japanese breakfast. I love it so much.
I love salmon. I could eat salmon like every day for every meal.
I'm not sure that salmon fillets are going to be all that easy for me to find in Saskatchewan, but I hope I can continue eating salmon with rice there. Hey, well, I'm back. This is my final check-in, and I have done maybe an hour's worth of reading tonight, and it was fabulous, but I am pretty tired. It's 9 o'clock, and I've had a fairly busy day. So I won't try to talk about what I've read, but I want to share with you some trivia, some stuff that I Google read everything. And so I'm going to share 2, maybe 3 different little bits of historical cultural trivia that my reading has brought to my attention in the last few days. Before I do that, if you have been following along, if I can quote Greg of Supposedly Fun, I told you that the last step of my book disposal process was that whatever my friends don't want, whatever I can't sell on Facebook, then I pack up in boxes and I ship to this Tokyo book buying service, and they come and pick it up at my house. They assess what it's worth, and then they deposit the money right into my bank account and dispose of any books they don't want. So it's just the most convenient thing ever. I was averaging about $10 a box. Not that great, but better than a kick in the pants, as I think I said the last time I talked about this. The first week I sent 1 box, got about $10, $13 maybe. The second week I sent 2 boxes, I got about $20. And last week I sent 3 boxes, and I got $60. I don't know, I guess there was a lot of fairly new hardcover fiction. A whole bunch of bales or pre-bales, Clara and the Sun, anyone? And so, yeah, they gave me $60 for 3 boxes. So it's going up. So that's going to pay for 6 boxes of books that I can't part with. Get them sent to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So trivia number 1 is Chowpar. Let's see, what's the pronunciation of that?
Yeah, Chowpar board.
Chowpar, okay. And this is a really popular game, or at least it was, in India. It's a cross and circle board game, so I'm going to be putting various pictures up as I'm talking here. And it's similar to Pachisi, and I don't know anything about Pachisi either. The board is typically made of wood or cloth and has wooden pawns and 7 cowrie shells. So this was mentioned in a long quote from A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth, and I'm actually going to read you the quote because it's quite lovely. Apparently it's played, I'm just lifting factoids from the Wikipedia entry. Apparently it's played in a very bantering manner between 4 players, and it's quite common for the players to mock each other. And there's a very elaborate system. But listen to this. It's a beautiful quote about some, so far, fairly incidental characters in A Suitable Boy. But it's a lovely set piece that revolves around Chowpar, the game. There's a husband and wife, and reference to, I believe, the husband's mother who disapproves of this game, and the wife's brother is visiting, and while the young husband and wife are playing this game on the roof. The husband is Kedarnath, his wife is not mentioned, and his mother is old Mrs. Tandon. And the visiting brother of the wife is Man. Kedarnath smiled, picked up the speckled cowries in his scarred palm, and threw them onto the board. Normally, he was a very polite man and would have given Man his full attention, but Chowpar was Chowpar, and it was almost impossible to stop playing once the game had begun. It was even more addictive than chess. Dinners grew cold in Misery Mandi. Guests left, creditors threw tantrums, but the Chowpar players pleaded for just one more game. Old Mrs. Tandon had once thrown the cloth board and the sinful shells into a disused well in a neighboring lane. But, despite the family finances, another set had been procured, and the truant couple now played on the roof, even though it was hotter there. In this way they avoided Kedarnath's mother, whose gastric and arthritic problems made climbing stairs difficult. I love that. The other 2 things will be much briefer than that. I'm not going to read anything to you. I am reading that History of Wales. I don't remember the title. I'm not going to give you my preliminary reaction to it. Just put the cover gif up here. It's by Geraint, Jenkins, I think. A Concise History of Wales, maybe. And so we're going back into prehistoric stuff, which is not as interesting to me as the historical eras, but I was quite taken with the fact that In 1833, a cape was found on the skeleton of a grave that was unearthed that dated back to somewhere between 1900 and 1600 BC in Flintshire, Wales. The village or city name is Mold. How do you live that down? M-O-L-D. Mold. And it is just gorgeous. So look at these pictures. That's all I want to do is I just want to show you these pictures. Just gorgeous. According to what I read, both in the book by Jenkins and in Wikipedia, one of the most spectacular examples of prehistoric sheet gold working yet discovered. Look at the detail in this. I'm going to show you a couple pictures. So that was fabulous. As I told you I would be, I am now reading this to Lindy and Kendra, this Norwegian novel by Thorvald Steen, The White Bathing Hut, translated from the Norwegian by James Anderson. I'm really enjoying it. There was just a really passing reference to a fascinating chapter of modern Norwegian history under the Nazi occupation. It was like, it couldn't have been more passing. It was like one phrase in a sentence. The father of the main character said that all achievements by Norwegians had been achieved on skis, including the Norwegian heavy water sabotage. So I had to look that up. I will link it in the show notes if you're interested. Of course, Norway was occupied by the Nazis in World War II, and there were a series of Allied left efforts to halt the heavy water production that Germany was doing, some of which, or maybe all of which, was in order to stop Germany, Nazi Germany, from developing nuclear weapons. And the power station, the nearest city is Vurmork, was where a lot of that was happening. So there's a long Wikipedia article where I would like to read a full-length book about this because this is just fascinating. And some Norwegians in the Norwegian resistance movement were integrally involved in these acts of sabotage, some of which were more successful than others. There were a handful of unsuccessful attempts and one much more successful attempt that occurred, and all of them involved the saboteurs approaching this hydroelectric plant on skis. So I would like to know a lot more about it, and if you want to know more about it, I'm going to link the Wikipedia article. So those are just 3 examples of just interesting stuff that I've been Google reading alongside the literary fiction that I've been reading, and I've been having a grand old time. So let's now listen to Kim of Native Lady Book Warrior and I talk about a book, or in fact a pair of books she's recently brought into the house. And I like asking people, my guests from Bite Size Book Chat or anybody, what's the most recent book that they've bought or borrowed or stolen that they'd like to show off on my VeeLog. So what have you got?
I actually have 2. So they're by the same author. And one of these books I actually got from my library because I saw it on Bite Size Book Chat. But I just remember the cover and the title of the book. It's kind of shiny. Yeah. So it's Oh Beautiful by, is it Jung Yun?
Jung Yun, yeah.
Jung Yun. Yeah. So this is the author of course, of Shelter. And so I most of the time I don't buy books new. That I have Libby, I have all of these apps on my phone now. Sometimes I'll go to garage sale. So when I found that book at the library, I found this one too, which is Shelter.
Yes. And
I saw that on this book, and I was like, I'm gonna get it because I actually got this free because I bought like a whole bunch of other books. And she's like, well, if you're getting all those, go to that pile. Those are free. So I was like, okay. And I found this. I was like, yeah. So yeah, these are the 2 most recent books that
is
I
awesome.
picked up.
So yeah, I had a chat with Chris from the Bookish podcast, The BookTubers, and she talked about the second Jung Yun book. Sorry, what was the title? Oh, Beautiful.
Oh, Beautiful.
Oh, Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, and I haven't read it yet. I have my own copy, but I did Shelter on audio, and you're a big audiobook person, so I really recommend the audiobook for Shelter. My optimal way to experience a literary text is to have the audiobook playing in my ear and the book, whether it's an ebook or a physical book, open on my lap and do the 2 together. I love
Yeah,
that.
I do that too.
Yeah, audio text combo is how I describe it. Audio text combo.
Hybrid reading.
Hybrid reading. That's right.
Yeah, I have to like when I'm doing that, I think I kind of get annoying to my family because they're like, Mom, and I can't hear. Like right now, I can't hear anything. I can only hear Sean because I want to pay attention to Sean.
Me.
Yeah, it's all about Sean. But yeah, so most of the time when I'm reading, I'll just be walking around, I'll get something to drink, and I'll still be listening. And people will be talking to me, and I just like walk right by them. And I'm like, oops, sorry, I was listening to my book.
So let me just say a couple words about Shelter, the book that you and I talked about on Bite-Sized Book Chats, and we're not going to mention it here. We'll keep everybody in suspense. But you talked about what a dramatic, powerful opening chapter. And Shelter also has an incredibly, unforgettably dramatic opening chapter.
I heard.
Yes, and
a friend of mine just read it. I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And wasn't last month like what was going on last month? And so many people were reading Korean lit and Korean authors.
Well, there was a Korean-a-thon something on BookTube. There was.
Yeah.
And I was too busy to take part.
And a lot of people were either reading like Pinchenko or this. And I saw a couple like posts on Instagram for Oh Beautiful. But my friend was telling, I was like, no, don't tell me. I just got the book. Don't tell me anything.
No, and I'm not going to tell you anything. But you have already told me offline that you don't have a problem with content warnings. So would you like some content warnings?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I would just say heavy violence warning. That theme is introduced near the end of the first chapter. And if you want more specific content warnings, I think the place to check out that is Storygraph, right?
Storygraph?
No, I'm not. I haven't made the leap yet, but I just know that Storygraph has one of the fields is content warnings, so should be fairly accurate. Are you like this? I remember where I was in Tokyo when I listened to that chapter on audio. And every time I walk by that place, because it's near one of the places where I teach, but not every week, but fairly regularly during the course of a year, 6 times a year, and every time I walk by, I remember that chapter of that audiobook because that's where I was when I listened to it.
Yeah, I remember exactly when I read that first opening chapter with that book we just were talking about earlier, because my dog needed to go out. And I was like, okay, get ready, you put your jacket on because it was snowing outside at the time. And it was interesting because that beginning, it's winter and it's snowing, and the way they're describing the snow. And I just remember just walking my dog, and usually my dog is yanking me all over, but he was just chilled out walking. And I just remember going up this like little sidewalk hill, and I stopped, and the security, because we have security in where I live at, they drive around, and I finished the chapter and I was just standing there or I think it's a prologue, and I was just standing there, and they asked, are you okay? And I said, yeah. And then I just kept walking. Like I had to like just pause and just finish out that chapter. And then I just kept walking and continued with the book. But
so you may have a similar experience with the opening chapter of Shelter. Are you planning to do it on audio, Kim?
Yes, I am. I'm actually planning to do it on physical and audio at the same time. So
Hybrid
it's usually
reading.
Yes, I'm a hybrid reader. If I want to start a book like really strong and have it just be stuck with me, and then I do it both audio and the physical. And then I feel that really gets me in the mood to just stick it out. And then
immersive.
If I have to do chores, then I'll listen to it. But if I can't have like headphones on at the time, I still have my physical. So that experience is just top notch.
And Kim, what a delight. Thank you so much for spending time with me.
Yeah, definitely. We have to do it again.
And we're going to meet in person someday.
Yeah. You guys got to check out that VeeLog when we're hanging out.
That's right.
Oh, I don't know. We might have to edit out a lot of stuff.
We're going to do it live. We'll do a live.
We'll do no, live stream.
Live stream. That's it. Thanks, my dear.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sean. This was really fun.